There are creepy and costly abandoned megaprojects all over the world, but in this video, we're going to follow the money and look at some of the most expensive megaprojects that ended up failing, mainly for financial reasons. These budget-breaking projects are having trouble getting back off the ground because their necessity just doesn't outweigh their ever-growing cost of completion. So, from dark and dreary nuclear sites to empty skyscrapers, let's dive right in. Virgil C. Summer Nuclear Generating Station Units 2 and 3. Let's begin with something nuclear. Like that time South Carolina spent $9 billion digging a hole in the ground only to end up filling it back in again. In 2008, plans were announced to add 2 nuclear reactions to the Virgil C. Summer Nuclear Generating Station in Jenkinsville, South Carolina. It was a bid to expand the site's generation of nuclear power, but it just ended up wasting a whole lot of money. By 2011, the project saw its first major delay with multiple issues concerning production, staffing, and quality control. The project, which was slated for operation by 2016, received an 11-month setback. By mid-2013, there were even more delays, this time due to manufacturing issues. The Shaw Group, who were contractors on the project, ended up facing a federal probe over the project's many issues, with allegations that workers broke protocol and falsified records. Another company was brought in to manage the project. It was also announced that the project's budget would have to increase by an estimated $1.2 billion. This ended up spelling the end for the project, which just couldn't justify even higher costs. It was officially shut down in 2017, leaving a useless gaping hole in the ground. The entire debacle has now earned the nickname the Nukegate Scandal. Multiple investigations have been opened into the failed project with various lawsuits filed, but in the end, it's expected that continuing the project would cost even more than $23 billion. So perhaps wasting $9 billion and filling in the giant hole was the right call after all. Golden Finance 117. In China, one epic financial failure led to a new rule for all future construction projects. This is Golden Finance 117, an unfinished skyscraper in Xiqing District, Tianjin. Construction began on the tower in 2008. It was meant to be 1,958 feet tall, with 128 stories above ground. A hotel and commercial spaces were planned for its interior, as well as a 3-story diamond-shaped atrium, which would have housed the world's highest observation deck, swimming pool, sky bar, and restaurant. The unique tower was part of a bigger city project called the Golden Metropolitan Scheme, a mixed-use luxury development catering to the super-rich. A budget of $9 to $10 billion was set aside for this opulent project. The skyscraper was meant to be finished by 2014. However, construction was suspended in 2010 due to the Great Recession, but the project wasn't quite ready to fold. Construction resumed in 2011, and the building finally reached its full height in 2015. It was well on its way to completion until financial disaster struck once again. The building's owner, Golden Properties, ran into financial difficulties after the 2015 Chinese stock market crash. They were forced to suspend construction, and the site was completely deserted. Golden Finance 117 remains unfinished and unoccupied. The skyscraper was such a colossal failure that it inspired the creation of a new law. The Chinese government banned construction of buildings over 500 meters or 1,640 feet tall. If ever completed, Golden Finance 117 will be China's last tower of such monumental height. Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository. This next mega project was also responsible for some government turmoil. Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository in Nye County, Nevada, was supposed to be a safe place to dump spent nuclear fuel. In 1987, after whittling down multiple potential sites, Congress decided on Yucca Mountain as its official dumping site. The plan was to build a tunnel complex of 1,000 feet below the top of the mountain. They would then carefully package spent radioactive materials and place them into tunnels for storage. The repository would use both natural and engineered barriers to isolate the waste and keep it from seeping into the environment. Once built, Yucca Mountain was supposed to be able to store around 70,000 metric tons of waste. The site was to begin storing spent fuel by January 31st, 1998, but was unable to do so because of a myriad of delays involving legal challenges and political pressure. One of the biggest issues was that Nevada didn't want to store nuclear waste. In 2002, President George W. Bush signed a resolution to establish the Yucca Mountain Repository, but then in 2010, President Barack Obama had a good look at his budget and officially cut funding for the program. Billions were spent on the repository, but get this, Congress had been collecting money for storing nuclear fuel since the 1980s, and it's estimated that the federal government has now collected more than $44 billion. But why pour billions more into a project that's caused so much political turmoil? The investment just wasn't worth the backlash. What's left of Yucca Mountain is nothing more than a tunnel and a few alcoves where scientific experiments were once conducted. The billions collected for nuclear waste sites will just have to be dumped into some other, less controversial projects. Jeddah Tower. Let's move on from controversy to completion, because this next mega project almost put the world's tallest building to shame. Back in 2008, billionaire investor Prince Al-Walid bin Talal of Saudi Arabia announced his plan for Jeddah Tower, the world's tallest building. It would be the first skyscraper to exceed 1 kilometer or 0.62 miles high, and it would cost a whopping $1.2 billion. The record-breaking tower would be the cherry on top of Jeddah Economic City. Of course, you'll never hear someone talk about super tall buildings without mentioning the Burj Khalifa. So let's do a quick comparison. Jeddah Tower would be over 1 kilometer tall. That's 3,281 feet. The Burj, currently the record holder for the tallest building, stands at 2,717 feet tall. The Burj Khalifa and Jeddah Tower actually have the same architect, Adrian Smith. Both buildings have a Y-shaped plan with 3 exterior walls, as they're more aerodynamic and able to withstand strong winds, keeping these mega-tall buildings from toppling over. Jeddah Tower's unique design tapered off into a giant needle, piercing the clouds. Inside, there'd be a whopping 59 elevators, office space, a luxury hotel, and apartments, including a massive penthouse as its crown. The most popular feature was a 2,187-foot tall open-air observation deck, the highest in the world. But luckily for the Burj Khalifa, Jeddah Tower doesn't seem like it will ever be finished. Construction began in 2013 and continued until 2017, when a political crisis ended the project. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched a sweeping anti-corruption movement that resulted in several arrests, including Al-Walid bin Talal. The project no longer had a major investor, and it folded. The 2020 pandemic was the final nail in the coffin. Now, Jeddah Tower stands only a third complete, at about 984 feet. With no money and no prospects, who knows how long the tower has before it's repurposed or worse, demolished. Millennium Tower, Abuja. It's time to wrap up this video with what was supposed to be a world monument. Instead, it's become one of Nigeria's biggest financial failures. Abuja's Millennium Tower was meant to bring international attention to Nigeria. First conceptualized in 2005 by Italian architect Manfredi Nicoletti, the 560-foot tall tower was going to be Nigeria's tallest building and was supposed to reach fame the likes of the Eiffel Tower. Its design consisted of 3 cylindrical concrete pillars linked together near the tower's peak, with a disc-shaped section that would house an observation deck and restaurant. Transparent stainless steel wings that gradually open would be wrapped around the tower's length. A $333 million budget was set aside for the project, which was slated for completion by 2011. Construction began in 2008, and after a few setbacks, the tower reached its full height in 2014. But by 2017, construction was still only 38% complete. 0 funds were given to the project in the 2016 and 2017 budget, and Millennium Tower was left unfinished and abandoned. In 2019, it was decided that an additional $400 to $500 million would be needed to complete the tower. In total, the skyscraper would likely exceed a $1 billion budget once finished. With nowhere to get the money, Millennium Tower remains one of the country's biggest money-wasting megaprojects. That's it for this video. Do you think any of these abandoned megaprojects will get a second chance? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, hit that bell, and subscribe for more of the coolest, creepiest, and costliest construction projects in the world.